Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. Today we are going to talk about the season finale of Hawkeye and just kind of wrap up the series, overall thoughts on it, and stuff like that. But before we jump into that, a couple things. I want to kind of acknowledge the 99th birthday, or what would have been the 99th birthday, of Stan Lee. And most of my job seems to evolve around comics, the comic industry, the characters that Stan and his team created. So I don't think I would be here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Stan Lee, and along with Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and Bob Kane and Bill Finger and Simon and Schuster and all of those guys who came before that created these characters. But Stan Lee, 99 years old, one of the best ambassadors for the industry that we ever had. Just one of those people that if you ever got a chance to meet him, which I was lucky enough to, you get the feeling he really genuinely cared about people. And yeah, 99 years ago, Stan Lee was born. He lived a good life, a long life. It was kind of dodgy at the end there with some of the ways he was being treated. But overall, we should celebrate him and everything he did for this industry. So happy birthday, Stan. I hope you're up there in heaven telling some cool stories to everybody who will listen. So, all right. We just wrapped up the Christmas season. We're going into New Year's. So this week we'll be doing Hawkeye today. We'll talk about the best of 2021. I'll probably do my top television and movies tomorrow. Still figuring out exactly what the show is going to be, but we'll cover that. And then on Thursday, we will do our spoiler breakdown of the new Book of Boba Fett Episode 1. So it's been a while since we had some new Star Wars. It hasn't been since we had that surprise cameo at the end of Season 2 of Mandalorian, since we've gotten live-action Star Wars. And while I thought Bad Batch was pretty good, it's still not on par with The Mandalorian and what I'm hoping Book of Boba Fett's going to be. And we have so many amazing shows lined up for next year, both Star Wars and Marvel and DC. I mean, Peacemaker is going to come out in January. We're going to get the Mobius movie. We're going to get Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We're going to get the Batman. I mean, there's so many good things coming up. And that's just early in the year. There's Moon Knight and Miss Marvel and She-Hulk and Echo. That is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. The plethora of riches we're getting from comic-based properties. Plus, we're going to get Death on the Nile. I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan and a huge Kenneth Branagh fan. So I'm loving to see that, we're finally going to get Death on the Nile that had been postponed way more than it should have been. But I love the idea of getting murder mysteries in the end of November, beginning of December, like we did with Murder on the Orient Express and then Knives Out. So this one was supposed to be in November, but it got delayed, and hopefully it won't get delayed again, and we will get to see it February 11th. So, all right. I think those announcements are done. I hope everybody had a great holiday. I hope you got some good gifts. I think that everybody should get a fun gift. If you're buying for somebody, you're buying for your spouse, your loved one, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your kid, anybody you're buying for, keep in mind everybody deserves a fun, even silly gift, you throw a Slinky in their stocking, or I bought my dad a set of Hulk hands once, just for the fun of it, for this year, I got a D&D book. I got some other fun stuff. But my big gift from Lisa was the 1966 Batmobile Lego set that has both Adam West Batman and the Cesar Romero Joker. So I'm looking forward to building that. I got some new shirts. The rest of the stuff was practical. The D&D book is one I'm actually currently playing digitally. I wanted an actual physical copy. But everything else was pretty good. Let's see. Kyle says, I got the game of Bacon. It's basically Yahtzee, but you have to spell bacon. Okay. We, Christmas Day, after people started to leave, Lisa and I and my nephew and George sat down and we played the D&D version of Clue, which was surprisingly fun. We had a lot of fun with that. There definitely is a strategy to playing Clue if you haven't played it before, but we played that and just had a blast. And Christmas Eve I spent with Lisa's family and we played bingo and won prizes and stuff. So it was a real fun couple of days. We did baking on the Thursday. We did Lisa's family Friday, my family Saturday. I cooked the whole thing, Christmas dinner, ham and candy jams and glazed carrots and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. So like I said, I hope everybody had fun. I know this time of year can be a real downer for people. So, take a moment if you have, just check on your friends, reach out, see how they're doing, wish them a happy holiday, and just, check in on them, see how they're doing. Take the moment. Could be a lifesaver. That's all I'm saying. So, all right, let's talk Hawkeye. Going into the episode, I think we all had some interesting expectations. There had been rumors going in of everything from Eleanor Bishop was the bad guy. Eleanor Bishop was going to be Madame Mask. The Kingpin, that Uncle was Kingpin. That Jack Duquesne wasn't a bad guy. That he was a bad guy. He was an ex-SHIELD agent. He wasn't an ex-SHIELD agent. I mean, it was all over the place. I should probably go through the Wild Theory episode I did. I should probably check those out. Let's see. The first one I said was that Uncle was going to be Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. I got that one right. I said that Jack Kane was a SHIELD agent. Nope. But there was another SHIELD agent in this who the Watch turned out to be Laura. So concept similar, but didn't nail it. Basically, I said that Ronan wasn't the one to kill Maya's father, and that turned out not to be true, that he actually was the one that killed, which I thought was a big risk, but it seemed to work out pretty well. Eleanor Bishop is evil. We got that confirmed. We don't get the reveal that she killed her husband. A lot of people speculated that. It looks like he actually died. At least we don't know, but it looks like he just died during the attack, which was fine. But she ended up having a lot of debt to Kingpin that her husband had made and, had to be basically paid off. So they never say if Bishop Security existed prior to his death, which I find interesting. But so Eleanor being evil, yes, get that one. Maybe even Madame Mask. Maybe. We still don't know for sure. I could see something happening in, like, if there's a season 2 or in another series where she continues on to that character. But I think the basic idea that she is evil is a match. So I'm thinking I'm 2 and 2 at this point. Yeah, 2 and 2. All right, let's see. What else? Yelena will reveal that Clint was Ronin and cause a rift between he and Kate. The reveal didn't cause it, but Yelena did. So I'm not sure how to judge that one. Kate found out about the Ronin thing on her own. It wasn't until, but the rift came when Yelena showed up, and Hawkeye realized that a Black Widow was now in play, and he didn't want to risk Kate. So I think that one's a push. Kate will end up spending Christmas with the Bartons. Nailed that one. Absolutely. Clint will continue as in the MCU as a mentor to the Young Avengers. That's a TBD. That's still to be determined. I still think that's a possibility, but I don't see him as done in the MCU yet. The watch would be Stark Tech Elite Armor Wars. Ooh, not even close. No, 3 and 3. And that one wasn't even, that was more why Ant-Man was in Rogers the Musical, which we didn't get an answer to either way. So, of the ones that we got specific answers to, I got 3 right and 3 wrong. What does that mean? That means I'm average. That I'm just 50-50. And that's what all of these are. You make a guess, and if you could take the Yelena was the cause the rift thing and go either way and break the tie, but yeah. I could have done better on that one. But also, as we got more information, my ideas changed. I did post on Facebook and I think Twitter saying that wouldn't it be great if the series ended with Jack Duquesne teaching the Larpers how to sword fight, and they did kind of set up him meeting up with the Larpers. So we'll see how that works out. Amani asks, what was the watch all about? Hey, that one's pretty straightforward. The watch belonged to his wife, Laura. And we could tell through some of the episodes that she was more than just a housewife. Now, if you go all the way back to Age of Ultron, the very first time they meet her, Tony Stark looks at her and goes, oh, she's an agent. Because, he's thinking that it has to be a whole setup, that Hawkeye couldn't really have a family. But in a way, he was right. Laura Barton was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was her watch. And it on the back of the watch had the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo and the number 19. Now, in comics, Agent 19 of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Bobby Morris, a.k.a. Mockingbird. So, and Mockingbird, of course, in the comics, ends up becoming the wife of Clint Barton. So, in a way, just the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo and the number 19 tells us that Laura used to be Mockingbird. Now, it's really subtle, and I know a lot of people out there don't want that to be necessarily canon. They want the Mockingbird program to be like the Black Widow program, so that there could be multiple Black Widows, or multiple Mockingbirds, because they want Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be canon. They want Adrienne Palicki to be canon to the MCU, and her turn as Bobby Morris in the comics, and the fact that Laura is not named Bobby Morris. Now, we don't know what her last name is. We don't know what her middle name is, or if Laura might be a first name. She might have changed her name when they moved her out to the country. But basically what that watch tells us is that Laura was Agent 19 for S.H.I.E.L.D. And did she use the call name Mockingbird? Probably. Is she Bobby Morris or another version of her? That's not specific. How the watch would reveal who she is, I'm not sure I get that. I think that's a little too vague, because just the number 19 in the watch, there has to be something more to explain how her identity would have been revealed. So that part of it, don't get. I don't think they explained that well enough. But overall, basically, the watch was telling us that it's Clint's wife's watch, and that she used to be a SHIELD agent. And if she was Mockingbird, that she probably made a lot of enemies, and they would pay for that information. So, which is likely what Kingpin wanted the watch for. But see, there's a lot of other stuff going on here too that don't make sense. Doesn't make sense, because if Eleanor works for Kingpin, either Eleanor or Kingpin was having the auction. So why would he steal from the auction when he's running the auction? Was somebody else having the auction? Who? Who was running the auction? Who was behind the auction? Who were they getting the watch from? Why didn't they just outbid everybody for the watch? Instead, they sent in the Tracksuit Mafia. So it's kind of interesting there, but I think there needs to be more information. I don't think they gave us quite enough to answer all the questions. But then again, maybe they don't have good answers. And by being vague, they don't have to actually say. So that's the situation with the watch. Now, that was just one of many things that they had to kind of clean up going into the final episode. And like all the series before this, they don't tend to overly complicate things when it gets to the finale. You know? Kyle says, if they don't send in the tracksuits, I don't get to spend 6 weeks saying bro in an Eastern European accent. That is true, bro. That is absolutely true, bro. Lost my train of thought. Bring it back. Bring it around. But yeah, there was a lot of things that they needed to clean up. And, I mean, they don't try to get complicated at the end. You know, and we saw that in WandaVision where they didn't bring in Mephisto. It was Agatha all along. She'd been there. It was easy to make her the bad guy, and they could bring in the Darkhold. Not a lot to have to explain about a book, a magical evil book. With Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they just made Karen Page the power broker. They could have brought in Arnim Zola. They could have brought in, Red Skull or anybody else, but instead they just went with one of the characters they had already introduced. That's normal storytelling. We think because it's part of a bigger MCU, a bigger universe, that they should pull this guy in or that guy in and that. Well, so if you're a casual viewer, you're not going to get that and you're not going to like that. So Marvel does tend to do these things with the idea that the average viewer doesn't know the 50, 60-year history of Marvel Comics. So we probably should calculate that in to our speculation. The watch, of course, was one of the great things that it had to be somebody we'd already been introduced to. Now, my mind went to Jack, because Jack seemed like he was something more, but it ended up being Laura. It made sense. They started laying the groundwork for it. And yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. But, if they randomly brought in somebody to go, oh, this was Dum Dum Dugan's watch, or some other sleeper cell agent watch, it wouldn't have made as much sense and it wouldn't have had the same impact. And why would Hawkeye be so concerned about it? Why would Laura be concerned about it in the first place? So, like I said, that was just one of the things they had to clean up. Another thing they had to clean up was Jack Duquesne. Jack was fascinating in this. Tony Dalton just played the hell out of this character. They spent a lot of time trying to convince us he was the bad guy. That he had killed Armand. That he was just, pretending to be a doofus. And they did such a good job of it that I think just about everybody was on board with him not being a doofus. But they weren't on board with him necessarily being Armand's killer because it was too obvious. It was too much. So most people seem to think that maybe he was a good guy instead, and he was undercover. He was, a SHIELD agent working, that he had a past with Clint, again, tying in the history in the comics. But they didn't go down that route. They pretty much made Jack exactly what we thought he was, which I thought was a great turn. They spent 3 episodes building up that this was a potential bad guy, and then episode 4, they turned it back, and we started liking Jack more, and he started becoming charming, and having his flaws made him a little more understandable. And then suddenly we kind of liked Jack, And then episode 5, Jack gets arrested, and his answer is, "I've never worked a day in my life." And you kind of believed him because it was such a out of left field comment that you're like, yeah, he's probably right. He probably never has worked a day in his life. So when he comes back in this episode, and had been arrested, they could have just taken him off the table. They had so many other pieces flying around in this finale. They really could have just taken him off the table and said, Jack's in prison. We'll get him out after. No problem. We'll do a scene where Kate gets him out of prison, picks him up. Something. Instead, they bring him to the party, and they have him wearing a sword. And they deal with it in one of my favorite lines, which is Clint looks at him and goes, "You just got out of prison for possibly murdering somebody with a sword, and you show up at a party with a sword?" And Kate says something to the effect of, "Well, maybe he's trying to prove that how innocent he is." And Clint's like, "Well, that's an interesting flex, but we'll go with it." And I thought that was great, because now we have swordsman, or Jack Duquesne, running around the party with a sword, and you don't know what wild card he's going to be. Is he actually evil? Is he really working with Eleanor, or is he just completely on his own? Well, when we finally find out, it's such a cool moment. And he's there, he's got the jacket off, but he's got the vest on and the white shirt and the gloves, and he's just like, bah, bah, bah. "Oh, hello, sweetie." Ah, yes. And he's still the same lovable, odd Jack. So he ended up being one of my favorite characters in the series because he's just so out there. He's so oblivious to what's going on around him, yet he can see who the bad guys are, and he's going to fight them. It is his time. He's got his sword. He's ready. And he goes out and he defends Kate, who, even though her mom got him arrested, nope, he's still defending Kate. He's out there taking on the tracksuit mafia. And it's just a great turn of that character. And I seriously want to see more with that guy. Whatever happens next, he's got to show up somewhere. Tony Dalton is just amazing as the swordsman, and I absolutely want to see more of that character. The other group that they pay off, which in the beginning I didn't think they were going to, are the Larpers. When they first introduced them, I couldn't see how they were going to play into the series. And that was one of my complaints about the beginning of the show, is it felt like the scene was unnecessary. Why are we meeting these people? Why do we care? He just went, he got the suit back. They could have skipped all that just by having the suit still be at Kate's apartment when he goes back for it, or grabbing the suit on the way out. Then they wouldn't have to have done any of that. Well, I didn't realize how much they were going to incorporate the Larpers. I thought it was, in a way, just kind of an easy way to introduce some other characters from the Fraction run. You know, Grills was a character that lived in the apartment building, but they got rid of that part of the story, but they still wanted those characters, so they introduced Grills and a couple other people. Then when the Larpers actually helps get the arrows back, it's like, okay, again, now it just feels like they're forcing this. But by the end of it, it's like, no, he kind of like Hawkeye put his own little group together, you know? And it was pretty cool. I liked 99% of what they did with the Larpers. I thought putting their costumes on was a little over the top. I thought they could have skipped that part of it and been fine. But they did it. And they made it work, I think. I thought overall it was fun. It's interesting that only 4 of the Larpers really got any spotlight. You know, the other ones weren't really involved. But there was a bunch of them there when they started. I mean, the actual event was huge. And then we trickled it down to a handful doing the workout. And then suddenly we're down to 4. And I know there was a deleted scene that had one of the Larpers dressed up as a medieval version of Hawkeye. Purple and blue suit, like directly from the comics. But they ended up not going that route, which is a shame. Because I think that would have been interesting. Especially if he tried to be an archer. You know, if the guy was like pulling an arrow, you know, firing one of the arrows and he just goes blink. That would have been an interesting scene or a fun scene. But, all right, so the Larpers got paid off. Jack Duquesne got paid off. They had a few other interesting things. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and go to commercial. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about the rest of the show. All right? Be right back. All right, welcome back, folks. We are talking about Hawkeye, the season finale. And before we get into that, let's remind you guys that Amani, who was just asking a question a while ago, will be here right up after this with Black Comic Universe. Then we'll have Jen, or Miss Jen, and her crew doing Minute to Skim It. And then I'll be back with Kyle, producer Kyle, to do In Stores this week. So we got a big lineup today. Lots of great stuff. Lots of books coming in. It's a lighter day in the comic shops this week, but this is the week to go in and get some good deals and look for books you don't normally buy. This is, ask your retailer, hey, what would you recommend? I read this, and this. What would you recommend? Or, I just saw Shang-Chi. I'd love to see some of the Shang-Chi comics. There's a great Shang-Chi series going on right now. Or Moon Knight's coming up. New Moon Knight series is out right now. Or what's going on with Scout Comics? Or Ahoy Comics? Or Zenoscope? The books that you don't normally buy. This is the week to try a few things, because you're going to have probably less of the books you normally get. Dynamite's putting out one book this week, the finale of Vengeance of Vampirella, before it goes into a new series. But normally they do 4 or 5 books a week. This week you got one. So if you're a Dynamite fan, but you're looking for something different, go see what Zenoscope's got going on. Look and see what Boom's got out. Boom's got a brand new Power Ranger Universe book comes out. If you're a fan of Dune, they have a brand new Dune miniseries, or it's maybe just be a one-shot, but it's all about House Atreides, the people from House Atreides, and what happened to the soldiers, a group of soldiers, during the attack by the Hakonnen. So there are some good books out there this week, but this is the week to explore. Or if you're looking for something different, I pull up these because I love them. But this is IDW's Artisan Edition, Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four work. I got a gift card for Amazon that I'm probably going to use to get the David Mazzucchelli Daredevil one. Some great stuff. If you want to see how the artwork looks directly from the page, instead of it colored and then reduced and then printed, you can get it a little closer to the original. So check them out. This is the time to go and explore your comic shop. Spend a few extra minutes looking at other things, because it's going to be a smaller week for you. So enjoy your comic shop this week. And, and they need, don't think, well, I'll just go next week. No, go this week. It's going to be better. Trust me. It'll be a good week for you. Okay. Before we get back into it, I should have done this earlier, but we should probably roll the spoiler warning. So if Kyle has that queued up, would you do so now, sir? All right, let's talk about how the episode opened. We got at the end of episode 5, we got that grainy little telephone shot of Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. Kingpin. It was the validation and verification of everybody believing that he was Uncle, that he was the one. And it made perfect sense. The character of Maya Lopez, a.k.a. Echo, is tied to Wilson Fisk. And also, the fact that he showed up the same week, like a day before Spider-Man No Way Home came out, which had, of course, the Daredevil, the Charlie Cox appearance. So it was all tied together. They're bringing him back around the same time, Daredevil and Kingpin. So it made a lot of sense. But the tiny little photo, I know some people were like, wait, I'm not even sure that was him. And then they showed his name in the credits of it. Oh, okay, it was. Well, I wondered how much he was going to be in the episode. Because it kind of felt like we were just getting a cameo. That they, here we are basically introducing a character in the end of the 5th episode. How important was he going to be in episode 6? Well, it turns out hugely important. We start off with him. We see the meeting that he has because Yelena videoed it and sent it to Kate Bishop. And yes, when you're talking about Elena, you have to say Kate Bishop, not just Kate, because that's Yelena's thing, Kate Bishop. So you watch that, and you see that Eleanor is making a huge mistake. I don't think she realizes how big the mistake is, but Clint does when they watch it. She is basically telling Kingpin that she's out and that she's got blackmailable evidence to make sure he doesn't do anything about it. And all that's going to do is get you killed. Wilson Fisk is not someone that allows people to have something hanging over him. So right there, you know, she's dead. He's also upset about Clint, you know, an Avenger getting in his business. He thinks Ronan is still out there. He hasn't realized the two are the same, which means Maya hasn't told anybody. Even though he took his mask off in front of Maya, she hasn't told anybody. And so he's upset about a lot of stuff. And then he has a scene with Maya, and it turns out, you know, she tries to BS him saying, you know, I'm done with all this. I'm not going to chase it anymore. I'm just going to get back to work. I'm sorry, you know. I just, you know, I let my emotions get away with me. But I'm putting that behind me now. Can I have a couple days to clear my head, and then we'll get back to work? And he says, of course, you know, I love you. It's all good. We're family. It's good. And she leaves, and he turns to Cassie and goes, okay, we're going to have to deal with her too. We got to kill all these people. We got to make a statement that the city is mine. And I got to tell you, D'Onofrio just continues to nail this character. It's a little different between the Netflix Daredevil version of Kingpin and this version, but he's got the same attitude, the same background. D'Onofrio has said that he comes at the character from the same place, the bad childhood, all the things that happened. So from emotionally, it's the same character. Now, how much of the events are the same? We'll have to wait till Marvel gives us more information. But D'Onofrio is definitely stronger in this. Or Fisk is stronger in this. Him being, at one point, Kate shoots him in the chest with an arrow, and he just knocks it away with his cane. And now the cane is one thing that they brought into here from the comics that wasn't in the Daredevil series, which is the diamond tip cane. So that's nice to see. And a couple of the outfits he has are directly comic book accurate. Like the Hawaiian shirt one, which I thought was really out of character. Turns out that's the cover of the Spider-Man book Family Business that Kingpin's on. And I guess D'Onofrio actually had that as his screensaver and kind of pushed for that to be the outfit he wore. So that's comic accurate. But he knocks the arrow out of his chest. And there's two ways we could have taken that. In the Daredevil series, his connection to Melvin Potter is that Melvin lines his suit with bulletproof material. So it is possible that he lined this suit enough that it stopped the arrow. I'm all for that. No problem. The part that makes it interesting is the level of strength he has. He rips a door off a car. Just, Kyle says, I think the cane makes some appearances in DD. I don't remember the cane, but it's possible. The ripping the door off the car seems a little stronger than he was in Daredevil. I mean, we saw him basically decapitate a guy with a car door, but you hit someone enough times with a car door, you can make that happen. That's in the realm of human strength. Just ripping a door off its hinges, that's a little stronger than just average human or even advanced human. So, and then we see him doing some stuff. You know, he breaks the graphite shafts, arrow shafts in half. He just is tossing Kate around like she's a rag doll. And it's just, yeah. So we're going to have to figure out where this extra strength came from. They're going to have to give us an idea of it somehow. But, I think it needs to be explained. It's a little more than they should. I think they could have toned that down a little bit, but we'll see what they're going to do with the character going forward. So, yeah. His ending, though, is after he has this huge battle with Kate. And this is the amazing part. I didn't think they would have Kate go up against him alone, which is just shocking. I mean, it was a really good scene. And there were two things from the Christmas montage episode that talking about splitting an arrow in two and that little coin flip thing. Well, both of those pay off in this episode. The coin flip thing is specifically used in this scene to trigger the arrows and explode. Basically, he's taken out all the arrows by snapping them in half, but she uses his own cufflink, which we know how big the cufflinks are to him in the Daredevil series. Those were his dad's cufflinks, and they remind him that he is not being cruel for cruel's sake. She uses that cufflink to trigger the explosive arrow, and that's what takes him out. And nothing until then was going to work. Now, Amani says, hey, the super soldier serum is out there, I'm trying to figure out if it is or not, because I think that all of the Power Brokers serum got used. I'm not really sure. The serum the Power Broker had, I don't know if there's another version of it out there. It's possible he got a low dose version, so maybe. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Just there's always interesting things like that. What's the pill they take in Hellcat? Hellcat?
You know the guy I'm talking about from the Hellcat story where he takes like a white pill, a red pill, and a blue pill?
Oh, you're thinking Jessica Jones.
Right, no, but it's from the Hellcat comics.
Yeah, but you're thinking of Nuke from
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible that Kingpin has something like that? It's a drug?
It could. Any of these things are possible. The thing is, they haven't given us an explanation. So at some point, they're going to have to address his power increase. So, and of course, they end. I mean, that's the thing about the Kingpin character is he was a huge part of the third episode of the finale. He had the scene with Eleanor. He had a scene with Maya and Kazi. He had the fight with Kate. And then he ends up with Echo in an alley, and we get the shot. But if you're a fan of Echo or the Daredevil comic series, then you know that Echo shoots. When Echo finds out that Wilson Fisk, who practically raised her, was the reason, the person that killed her dad, she shoots him in the face, but it doesn't kill him. It leaves him blind. So I have a feeling that, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, they brought Kingpin back just to kill him. No, they didn't. We're definitely going to get him in the Echo series. And this is unresolved at this point. There's going to be more. So we'll have to see if he's going to be blind through the episode or what. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more Kingpin. I don't think they brought back, I know they got huge plans for Charlie Cox. I'm sure they have huge plans for Vincent D'Onofrio. So, all right, let's move away from Kingpin because, he was great. I really liked his performance, and it really brought up the sense of menace to the episode because he almost became a Michael Myers type villain. It's like whatever we do doesn't put him down. And even the explosion, he walks away from it. He looks a little beat up. He looks, but you get, like I said, you get that Michael Myers thing feeling. So, all right. The next thing is the resolution of, well, the Tracksuit Mafia thing. There was a lot of great callbacks in that. Even the guy who had gotten dating advice from Kate. I love the fact that he's about to be in a fight with her, and he stops and goes, "Oh, hang on a second, bro. I need to tell you, your advice was great. That, we went to Maroon 5 instead." Now, personally, I would much rather go to Imagine Dragons than Maroon 5. I think Lisa would be the other way around, so I get it. And I'd probably end up going to see Maroon 5. But I thought that was interesting to pay that off, which is what I love about this series, is all the little payoffs that pop up. There's that. There's Jack sword fighting. There's when Hawkeye fires at Kazi and two guys. He actually splits the arrow in two, which is what they were talking about. Takes out two of the tracksuit guys, and Kazi catches the other arrow. Amani says the tracksuit and Kingpin seem like a bad fit. I'm going to agree with you. I think they are absolutely a bad fit, but I think that during the blip, things got out of control. I think Kingpin probably lost a lot of his power base, and this is what he has left, and he's starting to rebuild it. I think the tracksuit is pretty much the muscle that he has available now. I think he'll grow, he'll become more menacing, but I think that's what it is. And again, it ties into the Fraction series, which is what a lot of this was based off of. And the tracksuit were working for Kingpin. I doubt this is Kingpin's only muscle, but I think right now this is his street level. And he probably didn't think he needed anything more. He's just dealing with, Eleanor, who, quits like she thinks she works at Goldman Sachs, and an archer from the Avengers. He's not even like a real hero in Kingpin's mind. So I think he thought the tracksuit was enough. Amani says, I like that idea, sure. I expect to see Bullseye, and the thought terrified me. I thought Bullseye would pop up, that maybe he was in the Ronin suit and killed William. But again, I think Marvel is trying to keep these shows from getting too complicated and introducing too many characters, especially that aren't germane to the plot. So I think we're going to find out that some subplots didn't happen. I think that there was more to do with Kazi. I wonder about the final fight between Kazi and Maya, which I was going to get to in a second anyway. I have a feeling that was changed because most of Kazi's dialogue was done in ADR. Was done, it didn't match up. It was done when he was looking sideways or they were behind him, stuff like that. So I have a feeling there was more to the Kazi scene, and we just didn't get it. I think they got to the end, they had some big ideas, and they had to scale it back a little bit. Just like I'm pretty sure that Linda Cardellini was never on set. I think all of her scenes were done basically away from everybody else. I think she was done on green screen and then added in. I have to go back and look at the episode she appeared with the kids, but if you watch the finale, the ending, she is never like direct. I mean, there's always Hawkeye's going to hand her the watch, cut. She takes a watch from a hand. You don't see them actually So I think she wasn't in the scene. I think there was probably other issues because of COVID that changed things too. Now, I thought the Kazi Maya fight was a little anticlimactic. I could have done without it if Maya had just gone off and we'll deal with her or came at the end and shot him. The fight itself seemed kind of, like I said, I don't know why they were fighting at that point. She hunted him down, and then it was to get you to go with me. It just didn't ring true. But maybe it was a supper's ready ending. Like, okay, we really need to wrap this up. let's put these two together because I've got Clint and Yelena and Kate and Kingpin. So, so I'm not going to talk much about the Maya because, again, I think we lost some stuff there. The Clint-Yelena fight, I mean, first thing, the big fight with Kate and Clint versus the tracksuit was awesome. All the different arrows. Some of them were absolutely hilarious. The Pym arrow taking out the little truck, turning it small. Now, I've seen a lot of people horrified about the owl taking the truck away. Now, somebody told me last night, Paul Story, who I do Pop Go the Raiders with, says he believes that the Pym particles are finite, that there's a certain amount of time and then they revert. But then again, I didn't think people could be shrunk down because of air molecules and stuff. They needed the suit and the respirator. But yeah, so he thought that they would just grow back naturally. But a lot of people were horrified thinking that this owl was going to basically rip open the truck and eat these guys. Well, it's still a truck. It may be shrunken down, but it's still steel truck with reinforced windows and stuff like that. I think they're just going to drop it in the nest and then eventually it would grow back and drop to the ground. I don't think those guys were necessarily killed. So, by the way, if you're wondering why they even put the owl in there, last year when they brought in the tree for Rockefeller Center, there turned out to be a small white owl in it. And they had to rescue it because it was now 75 miles away from where it's supposed to be. And they rescued it and got it to a refuge. So there was a whole big story about Rocky the Owl. So they were borrowing that for that. But I thought them fighting together was awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the shirt that Hawkeye was wearing. I think I would liked it better if it was short sleeve like it is more in the comics. It looked kind of weird to me as a long sleeve. But overall, I thought it was neat that he got in there and he wore the costume. And at one point, he calls Kate his partner. And he really got into it. But the emotional heart of this story is got to be Yelena. I mean, first thing, the Yelena-Kate fight in the elevator and then going through the building was fantastic. And Kate and Yelena need to be on the screen together more often. That's just a lot of fun, whether it was the dinner scene at Kate's apartment or them fighting through the hallways. It is just a joy watching those two work off of each other. But Clint and Yelena at the end, you see so much angst, and you really get that Clint is not over losing Natasha yet. He is still grieving, and now he's trying to connect to Natasha's sister, a chance he may not have ever thought he would get. And I don't know, the whistle thing felt a little Martha-ish, the whole Batman, Superman, Martha thing. But I think it works. I think it's, the fact that it was set up in a different movie and has had callbacks and stuff, I think it works a little better. But you could that was some serious acting right there with the two of them basically connecting over Natasha's death. And to me, that's one of the best scenes in the whole show. And in a way, Hawkeye has been the send-off that Natasha deserved. We never got a funeral scene for her in Endgame or in anything else. They had the little gravesite scene in Black Widow, but that was actually the writers on this show's idea. They begged for it. So yeah. I thought they did a remarkable job putting all the pieces together. There was a lot outstanding going into it. I think they gave us a good resolution for Eleanor, for Kate, for Clint, for Yelena, for Jack, for the Larpers. I mean, all the way down the line, they really dealt with just about everybody. I think there's still a couple unanswered questions, which will then pick up in other series when we see Hawkeye again, when we see Kingpin again, when we see Kate again, and she may be using the name Hawkeye at that point. I do like and predicted that she was going to end up at the family dinner, back with Clint's family. And I just really liked the ending. It had a good ending. It had a good Christmas vibe ending. And this is basically Marvel's Christmas story they want you to watch every year around Christmas. So we'll have to see if that's how it pans out. But overall, I really like the series. It's probably one of my favorites that they've done so far. All right, we're going to wrap this up here. I need to get out of here in about 40 seconds, so stick around for Amani and Black Comic Universe, followed by Miss Jen and her crew for a minute to skim it. Then I will be back with Kyle for In Stores this week. I will be back tomorrow talking about the best of 2021, and on Thursday with Book of Boba Fett. So stick around. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons while you're here. That helps us out a lot. Hope you all have a great evening. See you later.